This chapter for me was an exception because in a way I need to take all the things where I said I'm separating emotionally and now make it all emotional. And the reason that is that if someone sees you and fully sees vulnerability, it's harder for them to project onto things that aren't really there.
So, Andy, in this chapter, you say that it's an exception or there's a paradox in it. Can you explain why you're calling it that and what you're relating this paradox to?
Yeah, so in the last chapter, I was taking a label, call it the racist, conservative, liberal, and making it impersonal. So I was trying to make it so that there was no emotion in it. It was more, oh, he has these views or she has this feeling, like making it so we could discuss it. And that's that's a process of making things easier to be discussed. Increasing the discuss aboutable, I think, is a phrase a friend once used. And then this chapter for me was an exception because in a way I need to take all the things where I said I'm separating emotionally and now make it all emotional. And the reason that is that if someone sees you and fully sees vulnerability, it's harder for them to project onto things that aren't really there. And so the humor is that in some cases, if they're the situations I need to discuss about with you, they need to be impersonal. But if they're me wanting to connect with you and you seeing me, then it's less likely that you'll misinterpret or fill in the gaps of things I might not say.
Okay, so I mean, from reading this chapter, it seems like this is a process of kind of tearing off a facade of your own and allowing something out that allows for connection.
Yes.
How do you do this? How do you do it in the moment? How do you catch when this is necessary?
Yeah, I think clearly, like everything, it goes again back to personal agency. So you have to decide for yourself that you're going to take responsibility, knowing that it might not be reciprocated. And then I believe you'll hear it in the words you use. And in the chapter I'll use, like it starts with, you're a jerk. You know, that's like the most direct, most confrontational. And then it becomes a little bit lighter version of, I don't like what you did. So it's again focused on you. And then it's, you know, I'm a bit uncomfortable with how this went down. It's becoming more personal. And now it's, you know, I have to say it really hurt me when I saw it. And I don't know exactly how to deal with that. So on each, say, of those 4 levels, each one of them allows you to see me more. Imagine you're a jerk, and then imagine that didn't feel good. I don't know how to move from here. Those 2 conversations are night and day different. And so the more personal I make it, the more impersonal it becomes, meaning you don't need to defend anything. We can now engage each other far more connected.
Mm. I mean, it's in a certain way it seems obvious, but it doesn't seem so easy, right?
Yeah.
So what advice can you give on how to work towards making this easier? Where do you start? Because it's always, that facade is really easy to just go towards the attack. Because I'm triggered, right?
Yeah.
We talked about getting some space, but what I do with that space, you're suggesting, is a very particular thing, is to go a bit deeper in yourself and find that vulnerability. Fine, I have some space from the other chapters. How do I know that I got to do this? What steps do I got to take to dig?
I mean, how I know, first of all, there's two questions. How do I know? I know because of the reaction of the other. So there's moments in my life, this is funny, like I'll say to them, like I'll say, oh, this wasn't comfortable. And then I'll see the person still triggered. And I'll be like, oh, that really hurt me. And the person's still triggered. And then I'll say, I'll even say like outright, depending on the person, you really are forcing me to dig this deep so you can see me. Like I'll out the word, like you're forcing me to say, you know, I was abused by my dad, and when you talk that way, it triggers me, and it's not about you, but it's something that happens, so I'm sorry that it shows up in our relationship. So I might go that deep to take full responsibility for the interaction, but I'll laugh and say, God, you're forcing me to go there so that you can see me. Mm-hmm. So I'll take personal responsibility to take those deep steps so that we can connect again. But sometimes it's just very superficial. You know, I could say to someone, "You're just being an asshole," and they'll love me and know me well enough that we can stay in connection in that moment. Other people, I'll need to go whoof, very deep so that they can really see me, and then we can stay in connection.
Right. It obviously seems like it's easier to do if you already have a relationship with the person,
Obviously.
somebody new.
Yeah. Yeah, but you know how things can go bad for some strange reason neither of you know. And then, you know, I'll give you an example. There's a dear friend of mine that I'll talk to pretty much daily. And we'll talk, and then there'll be like 2 weeks where I don't feel connected to them. Like I don't call him to occupy time. I call him so I can feel and be with that individual. And then every so often I'll just say, you know, I feel like I'm missing you. You know, and then if he is disconnected, he'll say, oh, well, that's not my issue, you know. And then I'll have to go one step deeper and say, you know, I love when I get to fully see you or share the intimacy, and I probably haven't shown up in a way so we could be in that connection that I also value. And then that person will usually cry, and we'll be back connected again. And not that it's a technique, it's just I'm showing up with the vulnerability, so that individual now gets a chance to see me. Where the first time I spoke, they judged it as a criticism of our conversations because I wasn't showing the individual how much it meant for me to have a meaningful conversation with them. And then that allowed them to see me. And that's how it becomes then for me, what I would say, by making it personal, by showing myself, now all of a sudden we can connect again. Yeah.
God, it seems like a lot of work.
It is. But it's again, if we go back chapter by chapter, is that, again, we'll discuss always the conditions have to be there, trust and respect. So trust and respect aren't present, I don't continue. So that's a really important note to make. So assuming those two exist, then all of a sudden personal responsibility is there. It says, I've made a decision, then if it's important enough relationship, I'm going to put in the time.
Got it.
And then how do I put in the time? I dig a little deeper into my emotions so that they can actually allow us an opportunity to connect.
Got it. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Again.